Good afternoon and welcome to Real Chicks Represents Real Discussions. I am your host, Michelle Dawes-Bird, and as always, I am super excited to be here with you on a Sunday. We are here every first and third Sunday at 2 p.m., and we did not let the snow in Atlanta stop us from giving us a live show today. Yes! We thank God. We're thankful for technology. We have power. Everyone is safe where they're supposed to be. So this is an awesome opportunity to just spread some good information today because, boy, we're going to need it. So as I mentioned, we're getting some snow here in the Atlanta area. It started about 9:30 this morning with the sleet and the rain, and now it's starting to stick. The northern part of Atlanta is getting hit harder than us here in the city. Like, I'm close to the airport, but my guests today are north of Marietta, and they're like, Michelle, it is really starting to come down. We're just praying that we still have power, and we do. So we are so excited today. Let me just give a little background for my new listeners about what Real Chicks Rock is all about. Real Chicks Rock is all about creatively collaborating and connecting to raise awareness regarding issues that impact women. And we do it by way of community service, public speaking, mentoring, workshops, and the arts. And as I was sharing with my guests here today in the green room, we have been blessed to be doing this particular platform through this podcast and talk show for over 6 years. And so we're super excited because we continue to bring good, informative information and topics for our listeners. And today is no different. Today, my topic is farming, how we grow and glow. And I have the beautiful couple of Key and Kenyatta Mandela. Hi, guys. How are you today?
We are wonderful.
Good,
it's us.
Good.
We are the Muendas.
Muendas, yes. Good afternoon. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm so glad that you guys were able to join. And like I said in the beginning, that the environment, the weather conditions are not as favorable, but we're bringing the sunshine in today with this conversation. So let's just get right into it. Where are you guys from? I mentioned that you guys are located north of Marietta. So that's like 30 minutes of Marietta. So you guys are like way up north, correct?
Yes, but where we're from is a little bit different from that. And I'll start because I'm a native Georgian. I'm a native Georgia peach. Of course, there's not a lot of us around anymore, but I was born and raised in Polk County, which is on the Alabama-Georgia border here in Northwest Georgia, a little town called Rockmart that is primarily known for having been a rock quarry center in like the early 1700s and 1800s, around that time. And that's where I was born and bred and raised. I'm a good old country, no red lights, now many red lights, of course, dozens and dozens of years later. But that's me. I'm a red dirt country girl.
And Kenyatta, where are you from?
And I'm from a much different background. I'm originally from Cali, California. The Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, the big city, urban. So from being from the big city, I always appreciated the country. I didn't come down south, but we used to go camping and do things outdoors. So I appreciate the country. I appreciate nature, and just being able to be in tune with the earth. But it's a lot louder in the city, a lot more noise, a lot of sirens and all kind of things going on.
Yeah. So how did you guys, what kind of foods did you eat as kids? Kenyatta, for you, coming from the Bay Area, what were some of the foods that you ate as a kid?
Well, my parents raised me on like a lot of organic foods. We did eat pork growing up, but it was like far and few between. But a lot of whole grain stuff, a lot of just natural foods. And so like 100% juice, fish. My family is originally from Louisiana, Baton Rouge, so Creole, we had gumbo. And then my mom is Filipino, Chamorro from Guam, so we have Pacific Island food. that's how I grew up. Good food. Uh, there's not a lot of fast food, not a lot of processed food at all. It's just good home cooking, just in a different way.
Yeah, yeah. Key, how about for you? What were you eating?
I have to just, just come right behind that. And I know that for us growing up, it was the same thing. We were farm to table before farm to table was a thing and before it was, marketable. Coming from a country area in the way that I did, my great aunt had a large farm. My grandmother and all of her sisters, they grew up gardening. They grew up farming themselves. Coming from a sharecropper background, growing your own food was something that was that it was just common. That's what you did, especially to kind of supplement, what you would have to pick up from the store. So I grew up beans, greens, tomatoes. We also ate pork originally growing up. My great auntie, they farmed hogs. So, we had that experience of being little kids and seeing them, take care of the animals. And then all of us little kids would kind of stand around and, my grandmother and her sisters would be making sausage literally like right on the spot, doing all of these things in order to, and putting up food in the smokehouse. Just wanted to make sure that all of the families, would get a portion of, the hog that they killed and some aspects of it. We also, of course, were fishing all of the time. There are a number of creeks that are in the Rockmart and Polk County area. So if someone went fishing and they came back, then, you ate whatever the catch was. Most of the time that was brim. Occasionally it would be trout or bass if someone went to a lake. A lot of times it would be crappie. So that's what we grew up eating.
Mm. So farming was always in your family. It was
Absolutely.
It was their primary source of income. It wasn't just a side thing. This is what they did, your family, to bring, revenue into the house.
Some of them, yes. Some of them, yes.
Man, so this is awesome. So you've been doing this. You knew what it was since you were a little kid. So you've been eating properly. When did you decide to stop eating pork and why? Because I think for some people, that's the thing. Like, they just say, I'm going to stop eating it. And for some, it's religious reasons, personal beliefs. Sometimes it's health. But for you, Key, what was it for you that made you say, I'm not going to? For
me, it was primarily a health thing. And I did the journey like in high school, and doing some education and being, reading a lot before I went off to college. Then I made the choice. And so I didn't eat pork for about a decade, about 9 years. And then, for lack of a better word, I kind of got bored. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'll incorporate it. I liked bacon more than anything. So I was like, well, I'll eat bacon every now and again. And then I after a couple of years passed, I was like, you know what, now there's better turkey bacon options, beef bacon options, so I moved away from it again and haven't returned. It was primarily spurred by a health, component, just because it was so integral to our childhood and to, to the Black experience overall, especially in the South. It's like, hey, you use that thing from the rooter to the tutor is the way that my big mama would say. And there was no waste. And it was just a part of, the life with regards to seasonings and to a lot of those traditional food ways. And in moving away from that and, starting to incorporate healthier ways of living, healthier modes of cooking, then we've just been able to not look back.
Awesome. For you, Kenyatta, you came from a very organic type of food with your family. Did you have any challenges when you moved to Atlanta? Because, again, we're in the South and people like certain foods. Did you find it difficult to find like-minded people like yourself eating and moving the same way with foods?
Not too much. When I first came to Atlanta, I was in the West End.
Okay.
So there was some people that are more conscious that eat good, organic foods, just they're more mindful of their body and their spirit and their mind. So it wasn't hard to meet people like that. And I stopped eating pork in '94, so I find the places that are good and the people are there. So you meet people that eat good when you go to places that are organic or that healthy for you.
And the West End still is that community where that's where people go to tap into organic living or eating, the lifestyles, different quality of food, people that are growing their products, selling it, you know, on the side, or just that's where you want to go. Right. The information where you want to change your lifestyle. And it to me, it's still flourishing. It's more and more people walking in that type of awareness and knowledge, as you discovered while we were talking in the green room, that there's more and more of us that are really starting to embody just eating better and cleaner. So I want to ask you guys, how did you guys collectively get into farming? How did it happen for you?
Well, once we started dating and then eventually starting to live together, then he's like, okay, you've got an entire acre. And at the time I was growing in containers and I wasn't, you know, utilizing the land in that way, you know, like most homes have a lawn. And so it was just, oh, you know, we'll keep the grass nice, have your nice decorative trees. And I was growing tomatoes and peppers and herbs in baskets and in containers, and not even thinking, okay, you've got literally an entire acre of land that has hardwoods, and there's, you know, a lot of natural herbs and wildcrafted, you know, type herbs and traditional medicines that grow here, as we discovered, you know, in time. And he said, we should be working the land. Like, let's move away from the containers and get into the ground. So Kenyatta was really the impetus for that.
Yeah, wow. Way to go. Yeah. Way to go.
Yeah, so we we decided one time to try it out, you know, and so I built some beds and we got the soil, we put in soil, we put in different like compost, and everything we did was always natural. It's just we really had to work the ground because it is rocky soil. And we started planting, and we planted seeds by hand. What was the first thing we planted? We planted some okra,
tomatoes, corn, radishes. Just in doing studying and really relying on, for me, a lot of the things that my big mama and that I gleaned from her and from her sisters, because I can literally remember having a hoe in my hand around the age of 5. Six at oldest. I mean, I can visually remember looking over my shoulder and watching the hoe to kind of make sure that I didn't bump myself in the head with it, because it was so much taller than I was, in taking the opportunity to work the land and, you know, dig out rocks and things like that. So once we made the decision to be organic and to really just work on building the quality of the soil, I mean, it was a lot of work and a lot of, you know, physical backbreaking work, because this area of Georgia is known for its limestone, is known for quartz, it's known, you know, for slate and for a lot of those other hard rocks. And trust me, it's here. That's exactly what our ground is. You know, once you get past the first couple of levels of topsoil, which was probably brought in by the developer, then it's just rock and it's stone. So we've had to collectively build the soil, you know, we use mushroom compost. We now compost our own. So we have our own compost where we're taking and recycling our fruit and vegetable scraps, a lot of our yard waste, and even, you know, plants that we decide not to utilize, you know, in some capacity around the farm, putting that stuff in. We've got a great mycelium layer, you know, like the mushrooms are doing their job. It's beautiful to see it, and to see the land really develop, and to really see the nutrients in the soil, to be able to pick it up and see earthworms, for it to be now loose versus being this hard rock clay and rocks that we originally started with. It's been a really beautiful process, and it's been fruitful, you know, yeah, for lack of a better word.
Has it been a long process to get the ground to be fertile and fruitful, to your point?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a constant work in progress, because of course, as you grow things and as you, you know, we cycle things around so that we're never growing the same commodity or the same product within the same area of the land, so that, you know, you're able to put nutrients back in organically. We do things like planting legumes and beans, peas, things that are nitrogen fixers for the soil. We plant them. And then the following year, we may plant brassicas or greens or lettuces or something that are heavy nitrogen feeders in that same area, because we built the soil, you know, for the previous year. And just paying attention to what the soil tells us and to what the land tells us. If you pick it up or you turn it over and if we don't see earthworms, then we know, okay, there's something that's lacking here, because when you see like the small animals, if you will, and your small insect activity, that's definitely a sign as to whether or not your soil is healthy, because they're going to be there because there are things there that nourish them the same way as it would nourish your plants and nourish your root system, so that you have quality produce in the end.
And I would say,
go ahead, Kenya.
I would just say that even from the beginning, we were blessed because we both have a green thumb. So we were blessed with some vegetables and some herbs. Just over time, we were able to have more, to multiply that and to learn more about the specific land and the pests that come and natural ways to get rid of them. And then, like Keisha said, we rotate, and then we also put in foods like the peanuts that add nitrogen to the earth and break up the soil. So then you have a much more fruitful soil, healthy soil that you can put anything in there and it's gonna grow.
Mm. I know that is very fulfilling to be able to take something that wasn't there, right, and learn about it, the research. Because sometimes for us, we don't research. We may go on YouTube, we may do it word of mouth, because we don't really understand. We think we can grow it, so we just go ahead and start building and do it. And I'm not knocking anybody that's doing that, but I do want to commend you both for taking the time to really investigate and do the research to understand even everything that you grow, even if it may be considered a waste, you're repurposing that, right? Like nothing is a waste in your
That's
land.
right.
Everything
That is one of our goals, yes, to be zero waste as much as possible. We also, implement recycling here within the home. We recycle metal, we recycle glass, we recycle plastic. So having that earth conservation and earth restorative mindset is key to our farming process and to our living process.
Do you think we as Black people are starting to gravitate more to this type of lifestyle?
Oh, definitely. It's a lot more people that are wanting to and grow, because even people come up to us and when we talk to them about what we have, our products, our farm, it's like, how can we do that? I've always wanted to do that. And so there's a lot more of us wanting to do that, which is natural because that's where we started from, right?
Mm-hmm.
We weren't going to McDonald's and Burger King and doing that. Like Keisha, her family, she's blessed to know her grandmother, great grandmother that were actually growing right in the backyard. You could pick it up. That's amazing to me. I didn't have that. My dad. My dad was a cannabis grower, so that's the aspect I got, and like roses and plants and flowers. But the food aspect, that's amazing, and a lot more people are wanting to do that because either they have the space, sometimes they don't have the space. But even if you have a little space, you have enough space. You can make the space, even if it's concrete, because you can build a bed, and you can grow anywhere.
That's our 2022 motto is absolutely that. You can grow anywhere, and essentially you can grow anything. And to your point, Michelle, regarding doing the investigation and doing the research, a portion of that is always going to be trial and error. Just because, your soil makeup may be different, your household makeup may be different. I always encourage people, if you're going to grow it, make sure that it's something that your family eats. Make sure it's something that you can use. Make sure it's something that you can utilize in some way, or even if you don't, then give it away. The beauty of growing, and for me, it goes just beyond, the way that we do for food consumption, but also there's the economic impact over the last few years. The dollars that we spend within the store environment on produce are extremely low. I mean, we're primarily buying fruit, but we have fruit trees. And so we know, within a few years, as they start to mature more, they're in their third year now. This year, we got our first lemons. We got our first mandarins. And that was it was beautiful. It's like, wow, we've had these trees for 3 years.
That was a long process.
And they finally produced. And we have figs, we have cherries, pears, apples, We have berries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. So as those plants mature, as they grow, and of course, as we grow, along with them, then we'll be able to reap more and more. It's about taking care of them, being good stewards of those plants, being good stewards of the ground and with what we've been entrusted with, and then being able to reap that return, share it with others. We have a small food manufacturing company that's Big Mama's Best. That's an extension of our farm. So much of what we grow, the organic produce actually goes into our products and into our product line. So to be sustaining in that way is even more purposeful. And obviously there's a significant economic impact there as well.
Can we get Big Mama's Best here in Atlanta?
You absolutely can.
Of course.
You absolutely can. Our website is our primary method of distribution. We also sell at local farmers markets, wherever we can. And for us, it's a lot of education from that aspect as well. A lot of people are not familiar with the products. My grandmother's recipes are what I'm reproducing. They're roughly 80 years old, and it's a lot of Southern relishes and Southern pickle recipes. We produce a watermelon rind recipe because, again, being zero waste, we eat the watermelon flesh. We use the watermelon flesh or for juice or for fruit, and then repurpose the rind into a pickle that was one of her recipes. Her cha-cha, which is like a Southern pickle relish that has a lot of heat in it. A lot of people like it hot, so we produce that as well. And then we have spicy garlic dill pickles, as well as a mild version of that. And then our okra pickles, which, listen, when I first started producing the okra pickles, I had no idea that this was considered like a Southern delicacy, if you will. I knew that there were some people within my family that enjoy them. A few people, we grow okra and we eat okra. We like okra. We appreciate, like the health benefits that the plant affords us. But then to take it and put them into pickle form, it's our best seller. People absolutely go bananas over the okra pickles.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. I want to ask you both, for the beginner, what would be some of the things we should start growing? I mean, somebody that does not have a green thumb, but really wants to try to do something different. And what would be some of the vegetables we should try to start growing in our backyard?
Yeah, I would say first, like peppers.
Okay.
Peppers are easy to grow. And you put the seed in there, it starts growing, and then it just takes off. And as you see the little peppers grow, that's fulfilling. Something you can see that starts small and then produces a pepper. The okra the same way. Okra, I'm trying to think the first time we grew the okra. As a matter of fact, the first year we grew okra, it was like 5-6 feet tall. It was tall, and then the okra started coming out and forming, and they form, and then you pick it, and then it seems like the next day there's another one.
Wow!
And it's like it's so amazing. That was like one of my most amazing experiences, watching something grow, and it grows fast. Like when it grows in the summertime, because it loves the heat, it grows, and then there's the okra. You pick that off, and it's like the next day is another okra. So I would definitely say like the peppers, the okra.
I will say strawberries. Okay. And I tend to think on things that, from the perspective of what Kenyatta is sharing, that are not going to be difficult to take care of, don't have like high water needs, especially with where we are here in the South. And for us, we also practice water conservation and rain recycling. We have a rain catchment system that provides probably a good 80% of our water needs. We have 3 large 275 to 300 gallon totes that we collect watering and then utilize that to water our crops. A lot of people don't have that benefit. Of course, we recommend and tell people like, look, again, with that grow anywhere mindset, you could catch water in a little bucket and use that depending on, how large of a crop you're growing or, small plants, small containers. Strawberries are something that are container friendly. Cucumbers are container friendly and very easy to grow as well. I would also suggest tomatoes. And again, they kind of grow, in the same way as peppers and okra. And another thing that's not necessarily indigenous to the South, but that grows really well here in the South is going to be sweet potatoes. And they also don't require tons and tons and tons of water. We've been able to do really well with those. And herbs.
I was just about to say
your herbs. Yes, they're very forgiving. And then, of course, they're complementary, and growing them with your plants when you're looking to do things like absolutely use no insecticides whatsoever, no pesticides as far as your insect management for your plants, wherever they are. And basil, sage, marigolds,
peppermint.
Yes, mint plants, all of these things are very beneficial in growing them in conjunction with your fruits or vegetables because they help to keep the bugs away using, their different properties and the constituents that are within those plants.
And to piggyback on what Keisha said earlier, the basil is the plant that we used to give away to our customers when they would buy different products, the pickles or whatever. We had a whole bunch of basil just growing, and it smells so good. It's so fresh, and we just would cut it off and give it to people when they buy something because it was that we had that much.
And little did we know we think we're giving it to people to utilize and to cook with. And then we had people come back and say, oh, I took the basil that you gave us and we rooted it. Now we have this giant basil plant. So we were literally spurring little, people to grow and to utilize it. Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Some of the private chefs that take our produce, they actually did that. And that was really inspirational to hear.
I need some basil today for what I'm cooking for dinner. I don't have any in the house. You should send me some. Send me some this way.
We got you some seeds. We can absolutely send you seeds. And that's another thing that we do as well, especially since we are all organic and non-GMO, is that we open pollinate. We're really blessed to be in an area where there are about 3 beekeepers around us within a 2 to 5 mile radius. Mm-hmm. And so we get a good amount of pollinators, different, bees and butterflies, other insects that come in and that help to, open pollinate our plants. And then when we don't have them, because there have been some seasons where the pollinators are low, then
we are the pollinators.
That's right. We're out there hand pollinating and, making sure that, especially for things like squash, where we don't necessarily want cross contamination and cross pollination within the plants, then, in order to make sure that your cucumber doesn't turn into a pumpkin or that your acorn squash doesn't become a scallop squash, then you want to make sure that you're doing the pollination yourself from plant to plant to control that.
How do you do it? What do you do?
We use sometimes the plant itself.
The male of a plant, like a squash plant, the male. Oh. So the male will have the pollen.
Yeah, the stamen.
And then you cut that, and then you stick it into the lady plant.
I call it diddling the squash. You go out there in the morning while the flowers are open, and you take the male flower, you cut him off, pull the leaves back, and then put him in there, give him a little twirl.
Sometimes, you got to pull the leaves back some and get in there. Yeah, it's.
And we use paintbrushes and Q-tips as well.
Yeah, I'm learning today. Now that we are in the middle of a pandemic, right? And not only the snow, but we were also trying to be safe too. Are you growing some things more than you were before to keep immune systems up or build up immune? You want to talk a little bit about that? Keisha, how about you?
Absolutely. One of the things that's inherent to my bloodline is being an herbalist. I have great aunts and my grandmother, all of her sisters, they within their food gardens also grew herbs, that were considered medicinal. So we, in turn, and as I've leaned really more into, who I am from just that internal perspective and, really focused on, okay, Keisha, this is who you are at your core. You can't escape it. You can't move away from it. So we have elderberries that are wild here. We actually also transplanted some wild elderberry plants from our area and moved them here to our farm. So we have elderberries that grow here. Obviously, we have all of the herbs. So we have your mint. We're growing chocolate mint, peppermint, spearmint. We have lemon balm, which is a calming herb, and we grow that, and it runs away. It's absolutely prolific, and it goes and goes and goes. We're growing sage, which of course has some respiratory components. We have the raspberries, so we've got the red raspberry leaf that's good for a lot of female, our reproductive system. We have that going, and obviously the peppermint being good for digestion. We also have mullein, which is another respiratory herb. And we produce teas and herbal tinctures and things like that from all of these products and from other things that we go out and wildcraft. We've been blessed to have lion's mane mushrooms that are close to our property. And now we've got a little small culture here, turkey tail mushrooms. And so we tincture those as well and utilize them within medicinal medicinal methods, primarily within tinctures for people to be able to utilize.
Awesome. That's excellent. There's unfortunately, even though we are blessed in curating the land, right? We've always been, as African Americans, Black people, we've always been able to become one with the land. We can build, we thrive, we're just talented in that space. But unfortunately, it's not a lot of us as Black farmers. True statement?
I would absolutely say that. And I know I read a statistic recently, and this is also one of the statistics that, I went out and did some research, because there is some funding, now that's starting to come forward with regards to, the different presidential administrations and government administrations, to where they are making some attempts to, compensate Black farmers and to encourage there to be more Black farmers, because we used to make up such a large portion of the farming network, particularly in the South, but also, in the United States, in the Midwest, and those areas. We made up about 14 to 15% of all farmers were Black. Now that number is less than 2%. It's around that 1.5% number. So there are some things, that are in the pipeline now. There's some funding that's in the pipeline now in order to encourage Black farmers, and also, again, to compensate families who previously owned farms and then maybe had that land taken from them, in unscrupulous methods, to be able to be, get their at least what that land was worth, or to have the land restored to them. And it's encouraging, to see that. And I feel like the more we have overall support, and again, even getting back to the economic, impact, where we're circulating the dollars and we're buying from one another within our own communities, right. Black people supporting Black people, and then also encouraging, white people to support Black people. In the area that we're in, the minority, from a demographic perspective. So a great deal of our customers are white people, Asian people, Hispanic people, people that don't necessarily look like us. Of course, we get the support from those who do, but a large portion of our customer base and of our, potential client base is people that are not people of color. So encouraging them and having them understand that they also play a part in being a part of that, restorative process, and in making sure that we get back what's due to us.
And like in our area, it's like we're the Black farmers, but as you get closer to Atlanta, and we've gone and collaborated and worked with different farms in Atlanta, there's pockets of Black farmers, which is nice. It's wonderful, but a lot of people that were blessed to have land, as a family, some of them didn't understand or understand the benefits of having land. And then a lot of us Black people don't have land. So on a mass production level, you have more people that don't look like us that have the land and farm the land as big business. And then we have a little bit, if some of us have some land, then we do that. But it's a mind state. And so as we educate people about being self-sustaining, self-sufficient, and self-reliant, you have to have your own land. You have to have your own piece of earth, which this is all our earth because it's all God's earth. But we have to get into the earth. We have to grow into the earth so we can make our own foods, our own products, and then collaborate with one another. That's the thing. So it's a mind state that we have to get into to be able to multiply and that, have more Black farmers.
It's a mind, Kenyatta, as well as our lifestyle has changed, right? We are so busy just trying to find ways to earn an income, right? Take care of our families. And farming is beautiful, but it has risks, right? Weather conditions can change the whole trajectory of what you've forecasted for your land. Some kind of, Mother Nature happens, and then, you're in a situation. So I commend you and other people that are farmers, because it is a risk And we don't know where we would be as a consumers. It's so easy for us to either shop from you or just go to the store and pick up what we want. You know, so easy to do that. But you guys, night and day, are toiling and nurturing the ground and producing food that we eat, that we consume. So I thank you both for what you do. And as we become more conscious on our health, right? Not only just the pandemic, but we're aging, you know, and we want to age gracefully. We want to be healthy. We want to be healthy. Black women, we are combating fibroids and thyroids and, you know, cancer scares and all of these things. And we want to, like, Black people are putting in the work. Thank God for the internet, because it is something we can go to and at least begin the exchange of information, and then find the pockets of people that are like-minded to kind of help us, because the messaging today is to be not to beat anyone up if you're not farming or if you're not in a healthy lifestyle, but take that first step to begin, right? Because every fruit or vegetable that you eat is going to add, you know, to you in a very good way.
Right.
We want to, because there's so much different energies and agendas in the world, right? It's people like you that are helping to empower us to take some of that power back in the food that we eat. So if we grow it ourselves, we know exactly what it is we're putting into the body, right?
That's right.
Controlling the narrative for our health, right? Right. So that's what. So thank you so much for doing that. I want to ask you, do you guys have classes, even though you're far, have car will travel? Do you come down to Atlanta? Can we do some webinars? Like, how do we start? And I'm sure you're already doing it, so share with us. How do you share this information? Through classes, through webinars? Do you have like a book? Like, do you have a YouTube? Tell us how you share.
Well, people can find us from a social media perspective. We do have a small Facebook presence. We're much more active on Instagram. We're K2K Farms everywhere. And that's K, the number 2K Farms. And our website is k2kfarms.com. So they can definitely catch up with us there. From an educational perspective, this spring, we're moving into hosting an Airbnb experience where we'll bring people here, and people will have the opportunity, again, to spend a couple of hours with us. And we will teach anybody who comes for the class that they can literally grow anywhere. Once we've got that launched, we hope to expand and then to build even more on the preservation component of once you're growing your own food, and once you start to, you know, maybe mass produce from a family perspective, how can I save some of this? You know, how do I go about drying? How do I go about freeze drying, dehydrating, canning? That's something that I do. Our pickle line is we can it. You know, we can that and we produce that. So that's another educational point that we want to encourage people to come back to. And again, as Kenyatta stated earlier, being growers, being farmers, being stewards of the land, it's our right as Black people. That is something it's definitely inherent to us. You know, I mean, even from the very beginnings, you know, of time, this is what we did, and being, you know, excellent food cultivators all over the continent. And then, of course, within the diaspora, every place that we went, that gift and that skill set is something that is uniquely ours. And I think I love saying that, because I think you can't think about food and how it's produced in any place on the continent, on the earth, and not think about how a Black hand helped to, or a Black mind or Black processes, you know, help to influence that, help to influence your methodology, or help to influence what you grow and what's where, you know, even from seed distribution perspective, and how we brought things, you know, from the continent to here, and then utilize them, repurpose them, cross-pollination, the farming aspect of it, the science aspect of it, the medicinal aspect of it. All of that belongs to us, and it absolutely thrills me to be able to share that. Within our website, people do already have the option to book individual classes. We also do individual consultations where if someone wants to grow within their home space. Kenyatta, again, is the carpenter. He's the builder. That's the materials guy. So he comes out. We do site surveys. We also will test your soil. And then that way we're able to help you understand how you need to amend your soil in order to produce more, you know, with what you grow. And So those are the two ways primarily that people have to be able to contact us. We don't have a YouTube space yet, but hopefully that's something that we'll move into in the future.
Okay. Now, there's some people that have very small spaces, like apartment living, and I see it's this hydroponic, I think. Is that what that is? Where it's like I don't know, it has soil and it has water that goes to it. Do you guys know?
That's what your producer has, the hydroponic system. Mm-hmm. So when before I moved here, I was in Alabama and I had a apartment, right? And so right outside the apartment, it was like a little piece of dirt, right? That maybe 5 by 5. So I start putting, and this is just for outside, just a little space. I start putting, I put soil there. I start putting my food scraps, which is vegetables and fruits only, eggshells, and I didn't even put any seeds per se in that. But I had a big tomato vine that came out and just started growing tomatoes. And then I did buy some herbs, some sage, rosemary, basil, and had the little pots out there. So people in the urban area that may have a little bit of dirt outside their door or they're on their side, they can do that. Or, you know, somebody like myself, I can build a bed, even if you don't have any, if you just have a little 2 by 2 space, or you have a 4 by 4 space, you know, it can build a bed, put your dirt in there, put your seeds in there, and grow right outside. Now, if you don't have any space, and you're like how it is back home, you're wall to wall right next to somebody, you don't have no space, you can grow it even if you have any kind of window. You can put your little plants in styrofoam cups, or you can put them in little pots in front of your window and use the natural light from the sun to grow different herbs that you would cook with. It's like rosemary, sage, peppermint, the tomatoes, you know, even if you have any kind of light, you can do it inside. So it's really there's no limitation as far as to what you have, because don't matter if you have a studio, you're going to have some kind of light. You're going to have at least one window. Yeah. So as long as you have some type of natural light, you're going to be able to grow something inside. And you can do the hydroponic, which is a hydroponic system utilizes water and pumps, and you have
liquid nutrients.
And you have liquid nutrients that go through a system where you may use different containers, and you have tubes that go through that. You can do that. You can do aquaponics, which is similar, which you just add fish into the water that produce, you know, their droppings is natural fertilizer. That's fish fertilizer, which we also made our own fish fertilizer too, which you can get for free. Go to the butcher shop or any market, ask them for scraps like of the fish, seafood that they throw out, and get some of that, and you add that with some little molasses and let it sit and let it do what it does naturally. Then you'll have a fertilizer. Boom, there you go.
I wanted to talk to you guys about the composting piece, because I don't know much about that, but that is a thing. So really, you guys, there's nothing that's wasteful on your farm, nothing, right? So as you have containers or any kind of, you're breaking those things down and reusing it for the land. Is that really what you guys are doing?
With regards to the plant material, then, you know, for your composting system to be at its best, in order for it to get the right amount of heat, in order to you know, generate a significant amount of heat to break down the food scraps that you put in, you want to use your raw fruit and vegetable scraps. Also, we utilize our leaf matter. We have a lot of hardwoods on our property, and the leaves, that's something that earthworms in particular, they love. So that provides you with some carbon resources. You can also utilize plain cardboard, like cardboard that's not printed, just like your corrugated cardboard. We shred that up, and then that also gets processed. Newspaper is also something that can be utilized. So from a composting perspective, we take all of those things. We have piles, and we actually have composting bins, and then we have some freestanding piles where we're adding, you know, all of that organic matter into a pile and layering it on, and you turn it, you know, every so often. You make sure it's got like the proper water ratio, make sure it stays moist. And I'm telling you, it doesn't take much time, especially for the ones that sit right on the ground. You know, those microbes and the microorganisms that are already existing within the soil, they come up. They come into that space, and, you know, they start to work their way in. They start to break things down. You turn it over, you know, you can see some mycelium activity. So, you know, now there's fungi in there, and the fungi are starting to do their processes, which is, again, in breaking things down and then, you know, decomposing organic matter. And it's just so rich. It's so black. And that to me is one of the best things that we do with regards to trying to be in a zero waste environment, is taking and converting the food scraps, the fruit scraps, the eggshells, the seeds, you know, from different foods that we eat and that we utilize and that we grow. Even sometimes, you know, if an animal, for instance, we have deer in this area, we have rabbits in this area, we have moles in this area, we've got all kinds of little furry friends, you know, squirrels and things of that nature. And, you know, it comes along with the territory, right, where you got to try and manage your animal, your local animal population, as well as the insect population.
Food's over here. They're like, come over here. They got all the food over here. They're telling the
So when you come across, you know, that strawberry that's partially eaten, or that cucumber that's, you know, it's riddled with holes because, you know, somebody came and decided to take a little snack, then that, of course, goes into the compost as well. And sometimes, to Kenyatta's point, the beauty in that is that then we get volunteer plants out of that from the seeds. You know, we've had carrots come in the compost, potatoes in the compost, squash, pumpkins, like our avocados. We have a few avocado trees, and all of the avocado trees were born in our compost.
Yeah. Wow. So you just take that out and then plant that, and then you have automatic plants, you know? So, I mean, your compost is very easy. Even if you juice or you do any kind of like make smoothies, and you save all that. You save all the parts you don't use and put it in a container, and then as you collect it, you put it out there in the dirt, and you just layer it up. Look it over the time. The sun will do the job. The heat, the worms will come up from the ground and do as if you're on the ground. They'll automatically just go to it, and they'll do the job for you. And that's wonderful, because we've always recycled, and I just don't like wasting, you know, especially when there's people that's without, and like little bits of stuff, they would eat that. So for me, it's like I don't like to waste anything, and then. So we use whatever we can use. We recycle whatever we can recycle, and we just do our part, you know. And it's a complete cycle, you know, with everything. Yeah. Because we have the waste, we have the compost, we have the plants. The plants produce. We have the food. We have the food for the people, and it's a wonderful cycle, you know. Yeah. Feel good. It makes you feel alive. That's what real organic food does. That's what I feel. It makes you feel alive. You know that, oh, I'm good. I'm eating good. Like you said, I know what's in there. It's not GMO. It's not no pesticide, no spray that's gonna make me be 10 feet tall, or that's gonna who knows what. Who knows what? You don't even know. They're not going to tell you what the ingredients are when you go to the grocery store. You got the big shiny apple that's just looks like the ones on the cartoons. Like, that's not how real fruit looks. A cucumber that's a foot long and shiny and polished. Like, what did you do? Put polish on it? Like, no, that's not how real. When you see real fruit and vegetables grow, you're going to say, wow, this looks different from the grocery store. Because there's no polishing, there's no additive to it. It doesn't need to look extra. It just looks the way it does. You know what I mean?
And you know, some of our kids, it's unfortunate when they don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, or we're not growing enough for them, because we see in some of the other foods that they're eating, the processed foods, maybe some of the meats, that they are very mature looking for their age.
Right.
And it is acceleration because of greed, right? Those people that are mass producing or wanting food to be able to turn around very quickly is you know, putting steroids or things like that in the food. And you're looking at people like, oh my gosh, like you look much older or bigger, or, you know, more developed than than typically, you know, you other children, or when we were growing up, we would. I want to ask you guys, because today is a snow day in Atlanta, not Armageddon snow, but snow all the same. What is your day gonna be like tomorrow, right? So thankfully, right, the snow is just supposed to be for today. So what kind of damage control, or what is the first thing you guys gonna have to do in the morning to make sure your farm is okay, your products are okay?
Oh goodness. First thing, more than likely will be just, you know, checking some of the plants that are still there. We've got brassicas that are in the ground now. We have a few enclosed systems, and, you know, just get under there, check under the plastic and the covers in order to make sure that those plants have survived the lower temperatures. And currently, just because of the season that we're in, everything is in that down process anyway, again, with the exception of those brassicas, because things like turnip greens, collards, kale, they love the cold weather. So they're thriving in this space, you know, and they actually taste better. Cabbages. We also had some broccoli that's out there. And again, it thrives. Swiss chard, they love it. And actually, last year we had, you know, a small amount of snow, and the plant leaves got frozen, and next, you know, once everything thawed out, it was just, they just sprang back up, and they were, you know, back to normal. So for us tomorrow, the process will just be just checking on everything. We've had these high winds. Let's make sure we don't have branches that have fallen, you know, that no trees have come down, because we dealt with that as well. You know, just making sure that everything's okay from that perspective, and that, you know, that we can then continue with the process of preparing for the spring.
Yeah. I wanna say this before I let you guys go. I want to shout out Kimberly Stewart Lucas, because it was through the reclamation project that you and I met, and it was, again, community and Black people doing positive things in the community, that we come together and we meet and we exchange. And I'm so thankful that you guys were able to spend some time with us today. I want to ask you this. We talked about the Airbnb. If people have questions, what's the best way they can slide in? Can they slide in your DM on Instagram if they got some questions? How do you want people to get at you if they got some questions?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's something that we're absolutely open to. We already field questions there. Our website, you know, as soon as someone hits the website, there is a chat feature there. And I'm telling you, my ear is trained to that tone. When someone's there, I'm immediately on it and saying, hey, you know, this is welcome. How can we help you? You know, what can we do for you today? So they also have that ability. And then our email information, as well as our phone contact information, is also on the site.
Okay, awesome. What website is k2kfarms.org.com?
.com. And I'm glad you said the .org portion, because that is something that we'll be transitioning into 2022 is establishing a nonprofit foundation where we're doing education and helping our children within the school environment, you know, hosting more of these teaching opportunities for people of all ages, but especially for our children, maybe forging some partnerships with the local school system in order to, you know, set up some beds and things like that on the actual school campus. Because to your point, within the perspective of being just responsible, you know, to our community and responsible to children and to our community as a whole, it's up to us to be the influence and to say, yes, this is where your food comes from. This is how you can start to change your diet. Here are viable options to you. Instead of drinking a strawberry soda, eat a strawberry instead. Helping them to understand that this is where their food comes from. It comes from the dirt. It comes from the ground. And once we start to, you know, mend the fences in that regard and really educate our babies, then we'll be better and we'll be stronger as a people. We'll be stronger as a community once they know my food it starts somewhere other than the grocery store aisle.
Absolutely. And let's remember our seniors too, because they have a wealth of knowledge, especially here in Georgia, right? We were probably so surprised and honored on how many people were farmers at one time or had grandmothers like yourself, Keisha, that knew the ground, that grew their collards, grew their turnips. And because of life, they haven't had the opportunity to have that reconnection. But somebody like you bringing a program with the help of children, connecting with seniors, that may add some years on their life.
That's right. That's right.
Touch that soil again, to have that turnip green in there on their plate that this young person had cooked, you know, and the stories, right? We want to be able to bridge that gap, you know, so create legacy and the stories that go with it. Because we as Black people, we know we come together around food.
That's right. It's community, it's fellowship.
It's community, it's fellowship. And to think that we would be coming around food that we grew, that is powerful. That is amazing. So, man, I want to thank you both for today. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you. It was our pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say it, Keisha, you got finer since we first met. You are glowing. What have you been eating since I met you? What are you eating?
It's absolutely the land, you know, and that's one of the other things that I wanted to talk about because I'm a mental health advocate, and I will absolutely say from an emotional intelligence perspective and mental health, getting in tune with the ground and being able to put your fingers into that soil and having that, just the benefit and seeing something, a little seed that you planted and nurtured and watched it grow. It's like having a child. My children often joke around and they're like, oh, you're plant babies. How are your plant babies? Because that's absolutely how I see that. You know, it's like, this is something that I'm nurturing and that I'm building up and that I'm growing, and look at how it produces, or look at how it heals, or look at how it helps, or look at how it feeds, how it nurtures. That it does wonders for, you know, for the mentality, for the mindset, from a calming perspective. It's a beautiful, you know, emotional development and mental health peace, you know, imbuing process.
And we need that. We need that. One last shout out. Where can people buy your produce and fruits and vegetables? Is it Big Mama's Best? How can we get your stuff?
Big Mama's Best is the line, and it is on our store, again, on k2kfarms.com. That's where they'll find our wellness products, our pickle line, our herbal teas, our herbal remedies and supplements. Everything is there, k2kfarms.com.
Awesome. And then we can find you on Instagram as well, K2K Farms on Instagram?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
All right. And I know on the Instagram site, we have an email address. There's a phone number for texting. So if they get to you on Instagram, you're going to respond, whether it's the website, Instagram, just get at you, and they got questions, and you guys will answer it. So we appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Michelle. This has been a wonderful conversation, a beautiful experience. Real Chicks rock. Black farmers rock. We are with it.
Rock.
Yes, we are winning. This is it. This is good. So we brought a little sunshine today, even though it was snowy conditions here in the metro Atlanta area, and up north, my friends up here farming in the north part of the city, like North of Marietta, 30 minutes up in North of Marietta, it's getting some snow. But God was so nice. He allowed us to have electricity.
Power and internet.
To talk about it, but that's my time. You guys know where I am. Real Chicks Rock, we're everywhere. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. Check out our website, realchicksrock.com. Listen, Keisha took a picture of my t-shirt. She bought the t-shirt, she took it, she styled it for Christmas. Listen, you know you need these t-shirts, so you go to the website, get your t-shirt, order it, take a picture of it, let us know, tag us on it so we can see how beautiful you look in the t-shirt. This has been my time, but listen, I want to leave with this. May you live to be 100, and I live to be 100 minus a day. So I never know that beautiful people like you have passed away. Until next time, take care, be well, and continue to rock on.